I'm not a belligerent person, but I sure would fight with these lips of mine.
Okay, yeah, so we've got an update for you. We told you in April that Florida's African American History Task Force has been shrinking for years. After our investigation, the state has now appointed 6 new members. But here's the thing. Are you a supporter of the Stop Woke Act?
Absolutely, 100%.
The Department of Ed is stacking the task force with allies of Governor Ron DeSantis. 5 of the 6 are active in Republican politics. Some are openly anti-woke, against diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and opposed to the AP African American Studies curriculum. And their first meeting got heated.
This has been one of the most asinine discussions I've had in a long time.
Let's see what's brewing. Hey, I'm Jenna Bourne, and I'm an investigative reporter at 10 Tampa Bay. If you're new here, welcome to our caffeine-fueled deep dive into issues that matter to you. Surrounded by images of civil rights figures and educators, this is Leaders Row. The path in Tampa's Perry Harvey Park felt like the right place for this conversation.
All our students need is an opportunity. First of all, to find out who they are and understand the richness of their culture.
You might remember African American History Task Force Vice Chair Dr. Samuel Wright from our previous story.
We shouldn't just talk about Harriet Tubman or talk about Rosa Parks. We need to talk about all of the contributions that black folk have made in America.
Florida law requires schools to teach black history, and the Florida Commissioner of Education's African American History Task Force helps districts comply. In April, we reported that task force had shrunk to just 4 voting members. Only 2 of them showed up to the most recent meeting. The Department of Ed hadn't appointed any new people in years, despite members recommending nominees to the state. Days after our investigation came out, Dr. Wright wrote this letter. He asked the Department of Ed to appoint new members before July 1st and asked for a list of nominees they were considering immediately. A couple weeks later, on May 12th, task force members got this email saying the Department of Ed had appointed 6 new members effective May 11th. You know, the day before. Did the Department of Education consult any sitting members of the task force on these new appointees?
No, not at all.
How did it feel being told after the fact?
It wasn't a good feeling. It really wasn't.
Task force members tell us they didn't nominate any of the people selected. It's unclear who nominated or vetted these people because the Department of Ed still hasn't responded to any of our questions. But the letter those new members got says it was Education Commissioner Manny Diaz who ultimately appointed them.
We don't need to be, things need to be shoved down our throats about what needs to be done. And I thought it would be nice had they shared those with us prior to making those final appointments. And as long as they don't stifle the progress of the committee, then fine, we welcome them.
We looked into each new member's background and found 5 out of the 6 are active in Republican politics. 4 of the 6 have previously been appointed to positions by Governor Ron DeSantis. Only 2 of the 6 have been a school board member or worked for a school district. Let's start with the lone Democrat of the newbies, State Representative Kimberly Daniels. The Times-Union once described her as perhaps the most conservative Democrat in the legislature. In 2019, she filed a bill that would require all public school districts to offer elective courses on religion, Hebrew scriptures, and the Bible. Daniels also sponsored a bill requiring public schools to display the slogan, "In God We Trust." Now to the 5 Republican appointees. Let's talk about the only new member who's worked for a school district, Tori Alston. Alston previously worked for Miami-Dade County Public Schools as its Economic Equity and Diversity Compliance Officer, and then as its Executive Director director for the Office of Economic Opportunity. Governor DeSantis appointed Alston to the school board of Broward County last year.
As we look at the math, reading, and writing scores for all different demographics, so we're in crisis.
He's now the chair. Before that, the governor appointed him to fill a vacancy on the Broward County Commission. Alston also worked as chief of staff at the Florida Department of Transportation during the DeSantis administration. Now to Glenn Gilzine, who was just voted in as the new district administrator by the Governor DeSantis-appointed Central Florida Tourism Oversight District Board.
The key of the role is just to really keep the trains on track.
He's also chair of the Florida Commission on Ethics, a spot that, you guessed it, Governor Ron DeSantis appointed him to last year. That's kind of his thing, actually. Republican Florida governors have appointed him to 6 positions since 2012. He also used to be on the Pinellas County School Board. Gilzine wrote a guest commentary for the Orlando Sentinel opposing the AP African American Studies curriculum that Governor DeSantis' administration blocked earlier this year.
This course on Black history, what's one of the lessons about? Queer theory. They have stuff about intersectionality, abolishing prisons. That's a political agenda.
Gilzine's commentary said the curriculum clearly has a component that does nothing to advance the teaching of Black history, but only the political agenda of a small minority.
Well, we'll have to get him straightened out and educate him.
Dr. Frances Presley Rice is chair of the National Black Republican Association. She's a retired lawyer and U.S. Army colonel. According to her Facebook, she works on documentaries about African American history. Governor DeSantis also appointed new task force member John Davis to his current gig, Secretary of the Florida Lottery. He previously held a leadership role with the Republican Party of Florida, according to Politico and News Service of Florida. And finally, number 6. Out of all of these new appointees, Florida House Representative Bernie Jacques is the only one who agreed to talk to us. He represents Largo and parts of Seminole, Pinellas Park, and Clearwater.
So my goals with the task force is to make sure when it comes to African American history that we are involved in education, which is very important, and not indoctrination, and really just teach our students the basics and not ideologies that makes them either hate each other or hate their country.
Governor DeSantis previously appointed Representative Jacques to Florida's 6th Circuit Judicial Nominating Commission. In his first legislative session, he co-sponsored a bill that the governor signed into law in May, banning Florida colleges and universities from spending public money on programs or campus activities that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, also known as DEI. Do you think DEI has a place in K-12 schools?
I don't. This DEI concept, it really puts a damper, especially if you're a minority student, that somehow the chips are stacked against you, that somehow past occurrences are holding you back now.
So you don't think that past occurrences in the Black community are holding back those children now?
No, this is a land of tremendous opportunities. And when we teach history, we should teach it all, right? The good, bad, the ugly, everything in between. But to tell somebody today in 2023 that because of the way they look, that they're somehow less likely to succeed, I think it's wrong. I would not be where I am today if I thought that.
Jacques opposes the AP African American Studies curriculum we mentioned earlier. We asked him about the Stop Woke Act that Governor DeSantis signed into law last year. Among other things, it changed Florida's law requiring students to learn about Black history, adding that classroom instruction and curriculum may not be used to indoctrinate or persuade students to a particular point of view. Are you a supporter of the Stop Woke Act?
Absolutely, 100%.
What does woke mean to you?
Well, woke to me is Marxist ideology. So it's a divisive ideology that pits people against each other based on the way they look.
We want to point out that's not how Governor DeSantis' own lawyer defines it. During court proceedings in December over the governor's ousting of Hillsborough State Attorney Andrew Warren, which is a whole story in itself, Florida Politics reported that DeSantis' general counsel, Ryan Newman, was asked to define woke. And he responded that woke is the belief there are systemic injustices in American society and the need to address them.
Florida is where woke goes to die. Woke, die.
The task force had its first meeting together on June 7th, and things got heated.
Please be respectful. no matter how
I
long
am
you
respectful, but I want to make sure that we get the respect too, because we've been dealing with this for years, and I just think it's a bit much for us to do that.
Pardon the interruption. Please allow me, please. So please excuse the interruption. I would like to remind you that all task force members, and I've not heard anyone say otherwise, are educated, accomplished professional adults. So let's please maintain a tone of respect and civility as you represent the Commissioner of Education in the public eye.
And the first vote taken was a 6-4 split, precisely divided between new members and old, to postpone the task force's virtual summer institute next week, which hundreds of educators were scheduled to attend.
The motion on the floor is to postpone the scheduled summer institute that is currently scheduled for June 14th and 15th for a short time until after the State Board of Education has adopted the revised African American history, the new African American history standards.
That adoption is expected to happen next month, but no new date has been set for the Summer Institute.
Just hearing that, new standards go into effect come July 1, I think we're sliding the opportunity for all of our educators to have the new standards and use it.
I find it very interesting that the new task force members, and it seems like all of them, have made a decision that they want to pause something that many of them have said that they don't even know anything about.
The Florida Department of Education still hasn't answered a single question that we've sent them on task force membership since March, or responded to any of our public records requests. I think they'll be happy to see us. In March, we showed up to Commissioner Diaz's office in Tallahassee. We're checking to see if Commissioner Manny Diaz is here today. And we showed up to this African American History Task Force meeting, but the Department of Ed people there wouldn't answer our questions in person either.
We're not taking questions at this time.
Well, when are you taking questions? Because we've been emailing you and calling you with questions for weeks. The new bylaws together. I've been trying and they haven't responding to me either.
If you could provide them to the communications office.
I certainly have been for weeks. We'll keep reaching out, and Dr. Wright says he plans to keep speaking out.
I prefer to die than to sit here and be put back 50 or 100 years in the state of Florida. That's not what I signed on for, and I've worked too hard. I'm 69 years old, close to 70. I've lived too long to see this kind of nonsense.
Thanks for watching What's Brewing. Subscribe to 10 Tampa Bay's channel and add the What's Brewing playlist to your library so you don't miss an episode. And I'll see you next time.